Senate will come to order. Chaplain Dr. Black will open the Senate with prayer.
Let us pray. Everlasting God, who commanded light from darkness and divided the waters into sea and dry land, great and wonderful are your works. By your power and might, sustain our lawmakers this day. Lord, give them the courage to embrace the good and avoid the evil. When they are faint-hearted, strengthen them. When they are weak, support them. When they feel doubt, infuse them with faith in your power, mercy, and grace. Lord, transform their work from anything mundane into an expression of their worship of you. Help them to make a renewed commitment to excellence in thoughts, words, and deeds. We pray in your amazing name. Amen.
Will you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Under the previous order, the leadership time is reserved. Under the previous order, the Senate will proceed to executive session and resume consideration of the following nomination, which the clerk will report.
Nomination, Department of State, Reed Rubenstein of Maryland to be legal advisor.
Madam President.
The senator from Iowa.
Yesterday, I stood here opening the Senate and kicking off the 64th Annual National Police Week. That is a week dedicated to the brave men and women who protect us and keep us safe. Now, tonight, as part of this week's celebration, marks the 37th annual candlelight. Each year, hundreds of officers killed in the line of duty are recognized and memorialized at this vigil. The name of each man and woman who gave their life will be read aloud. I encourage everyone to join me in recognizing their sacrifices. Honoring those who have made the ultimate sacrifice helps ensure that their contributions and legacies are preserved for generations to come. I encourage folks to visit the National Law Enforcement Memorial. The memorial contains what's called a quote-unquote pathways of remembrance, where the names of these courageous officers are engraved on the walls. While walking the pathway, visitors will notice the sculpture of a lion with an inscription below that reads, quote, "It is not how these officers died that made them heroes, it's how they lived," end of quote. These words are so very true, especially today as the new officers are engraved, their names are engraved on those walls. I yield the floor and suggest the absence of a quorum.
The clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Alsobrooks.
Leader.
Madam President, I ask unanimous consent the quorum call be suspended.
Without objection.
Madam President, the month of May is a special time to celebrate the Americans who serve our country in uniform. May is Military Appreciation Month. On Saturday, we celebrate those currently serving on Armed Forces Day. And toward the end of the month, on Memorial Day, we honor those who gave their lives in defense of our country. South Dakota has a rich heritage of military service, and I'm proud to represent the men and women carrying on that heritage in the South Dakota National Guard, at Ellsworth Air Force Base, and serving in our military around the globe. Madam President, South Dakota is proud to support our troops. Our state is home to two major military installations that are fixtures of their communities. But 20 years ago, South Dakota was at risk of losing one of these bases. On May 13th, 2005, 20 years ago, Madam President, the Defense Department announced that it was recommending South Dakota's Ellsworth Air Force Base for closure. I'm not the only one for whom this was a gut punch. Ellsworth is a point of pride in the Black Hills. It's been a national security asset since World War II, and it is home to the 28th Bomb Wing Squadrons of B-1B Lancers, which were performing a critical role in the global war on terror. But at the time, Ellsworth was a single mission base, and the Air Force saw savings in moving that mission elsewhere and closing the base. Madam President, in May 2005, I was a freshman senator, 5 months on the job. But now my state faced a major test, losing the base that would have been devastating to western South Dakota, and a significant loss, I might add, for our national security. So failure was not an option, but Ellsworth faced long odds. Past rounds of the Base Realignment and Closure Commission suggested we had a 12% chance of keeping the base open. Some at the time were ready to write Ellsworth's obituary, knowing it would take a miracle to save the base. Some thought it would take a political deal, and they doubted that South Dakota had the clout to pull that off. Madam President, we knew we weren't going to save Ellsworth through politics, and we weren't going to wait around for a miracle. Instead, we did it the South Dakota way. We worked hard, harder than we ever had. There were just over 100 days from the announcement in May to the final decision in August, and saving Ellsworth consumed that entire summer. My staff and I called everyone we could think of. I'm sure the BRAC Commission was tired of seeing me that summer, but I was determined to drive home the case for keeping Ellsworth open. And we poured through reams of data to make that case. It was a team effort. Bob Taylor in my Washington office and Kasai El-Haj in my Rapid City office didn't see much of their families that summer. The rest of the South Dakota delegation was involved. Then Governor Mike Rounds was involved as well. Retired Air Force officers like General John Michael Lowe and Colonel Pat McElgan lent their voices and expertise to the cause. And countless local officials, community members, and of course the 11,000, Madam President, South Dakotans who came to the BRAC hearing in Rapid City that June were all part of that team. Madam President, in the end, Ellsworth was not saved by miracles or politics. It was saved because we proved that Ellsworth was too valuable to close. Moving all the B-1s to another base was supposed to save money, but we proved that wouldn't actually be the case. Plus, we demonstrated the Pentagon's analysis had failed to account for a number of other factors. Consolidating the entire fleet of bombers in one place was a major vulnerability. An attack, extreme weather, or any issue at that base could ground the entire fleet of B-1s. And consolidation risked overwhelming maintenance and training capacity at that base. Madam President, it turned out that Ellsworth was just what the Air Force needed. And that's the argument that we made. As Colonel McElgan put it to the BRAC commissioners, and I quote, "Ellsworth has operational advantages to make it the ideal base for the 21st century," end quote. And as General Lowe testified, and I quote again, "Closing Ellsworth will deny the Pentagon a valuable base for future missions," end quote. Ultimately, in August, the BRAC Commission agreed, and it voted 8-1 to keep Ellsworth open. And since then, those predictions have proven right. Ellsworth's B-1s have been a consistent asset to our national security. In 2011, B-1s left Ellsworth to strike targets in Libya, marking the first time a B-1 fleet launched from the United States to strike overseas targets. Last year, Ellsworth B-1s conducted a CONUS-to-CONUS mission, taking a continuous 31-hour flight to the Indo-Pacific and back without landing. And we've continued working to demonstrate Ellsworth's value and ensure its future will never again be in jeopardy. In 2007, the Air Force Financial Services Center arrived on base. In 2012, the 89th Attack Squadron came to Ellsworth to control MQ-9 Reaper drones from ground control stations in South Dakota. In 2015, after a decade of work, we expanded the Powder River Training Complex, nearly quadrupling its size and making it the largest training airspace in the lower 48. And in 2021, the Air Force announced that Ellsworth would officially be named the first main operating base for the new B-21 Raider, a sixth-generation long-range strategic bomber. From BRAC to B-21. And the story continues. Madam President, 20 years ago, Ellsworth was said to be a liability. Today, it's very clear that it's a national security asset. And I'm working to make sure the base and the surrounding community have what they need to continue to play a key role in our national defense for generations to come. Madam President, before I close, I want to speak briefly about Troy Meink, a native South Dakotan whose nomination to be Air Force Secretary will be considered this week. Dr. Meink grew up in Lemon, South Dakota. He graduated South Dakota State University on a ROTC scholarship, and he met his wife, Jean, during their time in Brookings, Deputy Director of the National Reconnaissance Office. And in all his spare time, he's coached his kids' competitive robotics teams. Madam President, Troy Meink is someone who has the experience to lead the Air Force into the next frontier. And I look forward to seeing him take the Air Force to even greater heights once he is confirmed to this position. Madam President, I yield the floor and I suggest the absence of a quorum.
The clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Also Brooks.
The Democratic leader is recognized.
We in a quorum, ma'am? I ask unanimous consent the quorum be dispensed with.
Without objection.
Madam President, news of the Qatari government gifting Donald Trump a $400 million private jet to use as Air Force One is so corrupt that even Putin would give a double take. This is not just naked corruption, it is also a grave national security threat. So in light of the deeply troubling news of a possible Qatari-funded Air Force One and the reports that the Attorney General personally signed off on this clearly unethical deal, I am announcing a hold on all DOJ political nominees until we get more answers. Here are some questions that must be answered. First, I call on the DOJ's Foreign Agent Registration Act Unit, or the FARA unit, to do its job and disclose all activities by Qatari foreign agents inside the U.S. that could benefit President Trump or the Trump Organization. Since Attorney General Bondi took charge, the Department of Justice has not been doing its job when it comes to FARA. The FARA unit needs to enforce the law and inform the public of all activities, not just on this luxury plane deal, but all deals involving foreign countries in the Middle East and President Trump, his family, and the Trump Organization. Second, with regard to this $500 million private jet deal, the American people deserve to know the facts. President Trump has told the American people this is, quote, a free jet. Does that mean the Qataris are delivering a ready on day one plane with all the security measures already built in? If so, who installed those security measures? And how do we know they were properly installed? Why would we take the risk of trusting any foreign country to do this sensitive work? If not, what security modifications would be needed to ensure a foreign-sourced Air Force One is safe to use? If this is, as President Trump promised, a free jet, will the Qataris pay for those highly sensitive installations, or will American taxpayers cover the cost? How much will those modifications cost American taxpayers? Hundreds of billions of dollars? Hundreds of millions of dollars? Billions of dollars? How much will they cost? If the American taxpayers are forced to pay for this temporary plane, does it mean the U.S. government will cancel the contract for the future Boeing plane? If so, how much will that cancellation cost? And if not, why are American taxpayers being asked to spend hundreds of millions of dollars or more on a plane that will only be used for a year or two? Additionally, who in the Trump administration was responsible for this crooked deal? What are the parameters of this deal? And which country brought it up first, us or them? What is Qatar being offered in return? Considering past security disasters, such as the U.S. Embassy in Moscow, what are the security risks of this arrangement? And finally, how is this gift not naked corruption? The Attorney General must testify before both the House and Senate to explain why gifting Donald Trump a private jet does not violate the Emoluments Clause, which requires congressional approval, or any ethics law. So, until the Attorney General explains her blatantly inept decision, and we get complete and comprehensive to these and other questions, I will place a hold on all political nominees to the Department of Justice. As disturbing as this latest news about a Qatari Air Force One is, it is frankly just the tip of the iceberg. For months, Qatari and other Gulf state nationals have spent billions on deals with the Trump organizations, seemingly to buy access to the president, including a $2 billion from the UAE venture capital firm for Donald Trump's new stablecoin, including the launch of a new Trump hotel in Dubai, worth over $1 billion, and the construction of a beachside golf course in Qatar, potentially worth $5 billion. Donald Trump's business deals in the Middle East reek of crooked self-enrichment. He isn't just blurring the line between public service and personal profit. He's erasing it. This isn't speculation, it's fact, backed by overwhelming evidence. He is jeopardizing America's national security to line his own pockets. What is most chilling about this brazen bribe and the national security betrayal is how openly Donald Trump is doing it. How he is lying about the need for this aircraft and the risks involved, and how he is daring Republicans to call him out. And how are Republicans responding? With silence, with their heads in the sand, total obeisance, afraid to tell the emperor he has no clothes. Well, Republicans may be too scared to stand up to Donald Trump, but I will keep pushing, and Senate Democrats will keep pushing to get more answers to this nakedly crooked arrangement with Qatar. Until the American people learn the truth about this deal, I will do my part to block the galling and truly breathtaking politicization at the Department of Justice. Now on tariffs. Donald Trump promised that in dealing with China, he would not back off without getting concessions in return. And then yesterday, Donald Trump did in fact cave to China without getting much in the way of any concessions. Sadly, it seems like China has once again gotten the better of Donald Trump. And that's bad news for American workers, American consumers, American manufacturing. I've long been clear that going after China is a good thing. Going after the Chinese government when they're unfair on trade is a good thing. I've been clear that tariffs, when used carefully and as part of a larger strategy, can help bring nations like those run by the Chinese Communist Party to heel. But that is not what happened under Donald Trump. Instead, Donald Trump announced, quote, Liberation Day, pushing us to the brink of recession, sent markets flailing, sent consumers and small businesses into a panic, all so he could cave to China without having anything to show for the heartache and the economic detritus. This has all been another example of Donald Trump's chaos. Chaos. That's a watchword, unfortunately, for the way this administration acts. He has one policy for his tariffs one day, a different policy the next day. One day he's pretending to play a tough guy with China. The next, he's caving to China and getting little, if anything, in return. Who knows what Trump's tariff policy will be in the next 90 days? No business can count on what he might say or do. And any promise that he'll stick to his word, stick to his policies, well, the past is prologue. That never happens. Donald Trump's announcement with China is cold comfort for consumers and small businesses alike, for one reason. We don't know what he will do next. Now on reconciliation, and particularly on SNAP, the program that feeds hungry children. Today, the House Committees on Energy and Commerce, Ways and Means, and Agriculture will begin marking up the main portions of Republicans' so-called Big Beautiful Bill. Reports suggest that Republicans may even name their legislation One Beautiful Bill. That's ridiculous. I suggest Republicans pick a different name, a more honest name. They should call their bill the Big Grift, because that's what their bill is. Greedy Republicans in favor of tycoons. The Big Grift. Billionaires win, American families lose. There is nothing beautiful about the biggest cuts in Medicaid to American history. There is nothing, quote, beautiful about cutting SNAP, the largest anti-program in America, by over $300 billion. There is nothing beautiful about forcing kids to go hungry just to feed corporate greed. But that's what Republicans want to do. They want to axe SNAP benefits by $310 billion to pay for tax breaks for the ultra-rich. Cutting food from the mouth of hungry children for tax breaks for the ultra-rich, that is what they call beautiful? I call it warped. They want to shift the burden to the states, knowing full well many states won't be able to make up the gap in funding. That means in states across America and in Puerto Rico, kids, seniors, veterans, and families will go hungry. USDA cuts have already decimated food banks. I was just in Albany yesterday, where the local food bank had 27 tractor trailers, 1 million pounds of food, 1 million pounds of good, nutritious food for children and others, veterans, elderly who need the food, all canceled because of Donald Trump's cuts. Much of that food was produced by local family farms who lost a valuable market. And this is happening across the country, and now Republicans want to add to the devastation by cutting SNAP. That's even a further cut than they've already done, a deeper cut. Republicans call their SNAP cuts savings and reducing waste. But those are euphemisms. What it really means is increasing hunger, increasing poverty, increasing the wealth of the ultra-rich. It is morally indefensible. Indefensible. I yield the floor.
The clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Alsobrooks.
The gentleman from Wyoming is
Thank you, Madam
recognized.
President. Ask unanimous consent that the quorum call be vitiated.
Without objection.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, this week, Senator Kaine of Virginia, Senator Van Hollen of Maryland are going to force a vote on a resolution here in the Senate. And astonishingly, it is in defense of illegal immigrant criminals. They're going to take up the Senate time, the time of the American people, because they want to defend illegal immigrant criminals. It's called the Kaine-Van Hollen Resolution, pure political theater, not about human rights. It's about protecting Americans, in my opinion, from violent crime. And that's why I'm opposing what they are proposing here today. What they're proposing is to shield illegal immigrant criminals, shield them from deportation, and shield them as they try to evade arrest. Democrats want to defend illegal immigrant criminals, and apparently they want to continue to do that. Let's talk about illegal immigrant criminals. And let's talk about the one that they're running to check on in El Salvador, Kilmar Abrego Garcia. That's what one of them did, went to go check on him. The media likes to call him the Maryland man. Senator Van Hollen said he doesn't vouch for Garcia. He's one of many Democrats now who have gone to El Salvador. Let's talk about Garcia's record That's what the American people have been hearing about as well. For starters, Garcia is an illegal immigrant with a deportation order. He's been ordered by the courts to be deported from the United States. His own lawyer has conceded in immigration court that he entered the country illegally back in 2011, and he is fully subject to deportation, and a deportation order has been given. Moreover, in 2019, an immigration judge, again, a judge, determined Garcia was a verified member of MS-13. A verified member of MS-13. Well, then they appealed. Well, the determination was upheld on appeal. Yes, he's a verified member of MS-13. Oh, he's also suspected of human trafficking, because in 2022, he was caught driving 8 passengers from Texas to Maryland. He was stopped in Tennessee. He was driving 8 passengers, Texas to Maryland, in a car registered to a human smuggler. Astonishing. That's who the Democrats are defending. He was driving on a suspended license, no proof of insurance, all in violation of the law. None of these 8 passengers being moved, transported from Texas to Maryland had any luggage. Tennessee law enforcement recently released the body camera footage of the stop. It's real. But what else do we know? Well, his wife, Garcia's wife, sought 2 protective orders against him for threatening to kill her. That's who the Democrats are here defending today. Not that one individual, but that whole style of behavior that has now impacted every community in America as 10 million illegal immigrants have flooded into our country during the Biden administration. What's President Trump done? He has taken this dangerous thug off the streets. But now Democrats are fighting to bring illegal immigrant criminals, in his case and others, back into the country. How many people want him as the next-door neighbor? Is that good news? Is that what the Democrats want? Hey, bring him back, bring him into your community. President Trump and Republicans in this body are protecting our communities. We're supporting and actually deporting illegal immigrant criminals. Democrats' policies would allow each and every one of those criminals to roam free in our communities. Americans were forced to live with Democrats' failed approach at the border for the last 4 years. 10 million illegal immigrants flooded into the country, entered with ease. Open border policies, what did it do? What do we know about our home state of Wyoming? Drove up crime, drove up fentanyl deaths. So many illegal immigrants, they strained our schools, our hospitals, our communities. And Democrats are now attempting to weaken the strong and successful border security policies that this current administration is actually enforcing, which the Democrats ignored. Illegal crossings are down 93% from last year. In April, only 5 illegal immigrants were released into the country. Compare that to April 1 year ago. Joe Biden was in charge. He was the president. The Democrats were the majority. 68,000 illegal immigrants were released into America in the single month under Joe Biden. That was the month of April last year. Look, we are putting in place strong border security. Republicans are leading the way. We ended this catch and release program. We restored Remain in Mexico. We are the party of secure borders and safe communities. The Democrats are the party of open borders and crime running rampant. So the response of the obstructionist Democrat is to push a political stunt, and that's what they're doing here today. This Kaine-Van Hollen resolution, it wastes the Senate's time. It delays our important work on behalf of the American people. I have not heard one Democrat, and I hope some come to the floor and explain how allowing MS-13 gang members to roam free in our communities and in our neighborhoods, how that makes America safer or stronger. What's the Democrat plan to protect Americans like Laken Riley and Rachel Morin and other victims of their failed policies? They have none. They have none. Republicans know how to keep America safe, secure the border, fund law enforcement, deport illegal immigrant criminals. That's the way to keep our country safe and strong. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the floor.
The clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Alsobrooks.
Recognize the senator from Connecticut.
We need a quorum call?
Yes.
I'd ask that we dispense with the quorum call and I be recognized.
Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, usually public corruption happens in secret. The politicians that do it, they know it's wrong to accept money in exchange for favorable government treatment, and so they hide it until they're found out. A textbook example would be Louisiana Governor Edwin Edwards, who in the 1990s was quietly taking bribes from businessmen who wanted to get licenses for riverboat casinos. In the late 1990s, Edwards was convicted of the crimes of extortion, racketeering, money laundering. The way in which he was doing it was like out of a movie. In one instance, a businessman handed the governor a suitcase full of $100 bills totaling $400,000, all in order to get a 6-0 commission ruling in favor of this casino. Eventually, as with most all corrupt officials who are taking money privately, Edwards was discovered, he was disgraced, and he went to jail. As we speak, our president, Donald Trump, is going to the Middle East on a public corruption tour. He's no less corrupt than Edwin Edwards of Louisiana. In fact, he's way more corrupt. Edwin Edwards took $400,000. Well, in the Middle East, Donald Trump will cement deals totaling in the billions in exchange for favorable treatment by the U.S. federal government for these Gulf countries. The key difference is that Donald Trump isn't hiding it like other corrupt officials are. He's not ashamed. He's not doing it in secret. His corruption is wildly public, and his hope is that by doing it publicly, he can con the American people into thinking that it's not corruption because he's not hiding it. But what he's doing in reality is no different than any other corrupt public official who does it in private, other than the fact that Trump's corruption, his foreign policy corruption, is just so much bigger in scope and the impact that it has on the American people than anything a corrupt mayor or a corrupt governor may have done. Trump's first major foreign trip, and he just landed, is to Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and UAE. Not because these are our most important allies in the world, not because these are the most important countries in the world, not because he's going there to talk about making the Middle East more safe and more secure. No, his first trip is to these three countries because these are the three countries that have agreed to pay Donald Trump money. Donald Trump is going to collect tribute, and it's all just out in the open. Frankly, it's pretty easy to see this coming. Recent former presidents, Republicans and Democrats, have always very seriously and studiously avoided even the appearance of a conflict of interest. President Bush placed his assets into a qualified blind trust where investment decisions were made without his knowledge or input. Both Biden and Obama divested all of their assets except for cash and mutual funds. They didn't enter into any new business ventures while in the White House. In contrast, Trump has refused to abide by these standard ethics rules. His family runs his business, but nobody honestly believes that the kids are really in charge. President Trump is still calling the shots. His interests are not in a blind trust. He's made no pledge that he won't do new deals, even with foreign entities, while he's in office. In fact, he is doing deals seemingly every single week. He's open for business, and every foreign government knows it. In fact, it appears that right now the Gulf states are trying to outdo each other to up the price of buying an American president. And because Trump is greedy and he's insecure, he wants to fit in with the billionaire class, he is traveling to the region with his hat out for further solicitations. So let's ask, what is the going rate right now for a Gulf country to buy access to Donald Trump, to get favorable treatment from the federal government? For Qatar, we recently found out it's a $400 million luxury plane. This plane has been opulently configured for royal use. It's not a gift to the U.S. government. It's a personal gift to the president. The terms of the arrangement apparently include a stipulation that after Trump leaves office, it will be transferred to Trump, to his presidential library, which means Trump gets the so-called floating palace for himself. This is outrageous. We've never seen anything like this before in American history. A foreign government gifting a $400 million luxury plane to the President of the United States. This is spelled out as blatantly unconstitutional by our founding fathers. They wrote into the Constitution a specific clause called the Emoluments Clause, which prohibits federal office holders from accepting gifts from any king, prince, or foreign state without the consent of Congress. Like, how much clearer could it be? It's unconstitutional. It's illegal. The founding fathers knew it was an evil to have members of Congress or the President of the United States accepting expensive gifts from a foreign nation who in exchange want favors from the U.S. government. Donald Trump's acceptance of the luxury plane from a foreign monarch is basically the corruption that our founding fathers were seeking to prevent. But that's not all he's getting from Qatar. The Trump Organization recently signed a $5.5 billion golf course and real estate deal with Dar Global and Qatari Dar, a firm established by Qatar's sovereign wealth fund. $5.5 billion while Trump's in office. It would have been unthinkable for any previous president to enter into a $5.5 billion business deal with anybody, never mind a foreign government, while they are in office, and it still should be unthinkable. Now, Qatar is a U.S. ally. It's a very important ally, but they're a complicated country. They have their own interests, some of which do not overlap with ours. A foreign government like Qatar should not have a $5 billion chit hanging over the head of a sitting U.S. president, and they should not be gifting him a $400 million plane. That should kind of go without saying. For Saudi Arabia, the price is also in the billions. Soon after leaving the White House, in Trump's first term, his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, created a private equity firm and got a $2 billion investment from Saudi Arabia. The board of the Saudi Sovereign Wealth Fund questioned whether this was smart to invest that much money in a totally unproven fund, but the Saudi Crown Prince himself overruled the board, undoubtedly seeing the political advantage of investing directly with the Trump family. But this was only the beginning. The Trump family has put things into overdrive during the second term. Within his first 3 weeks of office, Trump convened a meeting at the White House with the head of the Saudi Sovereign Wealth Fund, not to discuss matters of state, but to negotiate a deal between the PGA and the Saudi-backed LIV Golf Tour. You want to know why? To try to bring PGA tournaments back to Trump golf courses. Convene a meeting in the White House with the Saudis in order to enrich himself. In addition to the $5 billion Qatari real estate deal, the Trump Organization is also partnering with a Saudi firm on a $1 billion Trump-branded hotel and tower in Dubai. The property's website, this is unbelievable. The property's website, this is a Trump-financed property along with a Saudi investment fund, offers free 10-year golden visas to the United States, hinting at the opportunity for investors in Trump's property to buy residency in the United States and a pathway to citizenship. For the UAE, the price is somewhere north of $2 billion. Last week, Eric Trump and World Liberty Financial co-founder Zach Witkoff spoke at a conference in Dubai on crypto called Token 2049. As an aside here, it's just so fantastic and bone-chilling how transparent these guys are in their use of public positions to enrich themselves. I'm going to tell the story of Trump's stablecoin and the corruption with the Emiratis. But let's just pause for a second and consider the fact that the Trump family could have partnered with anybody in the world on their new crypto venture, World Liberty Financial. But of all the people in the world to partner with on this new crypto venture. They chose the son of Trump's Middle East envoy. Trump's Middle East envoy, the guy who's making all the decisions on U.S. policy in the Middle East, just to make it crystal clear to the Gulf countries that when they deal with World Liberty Financial, Trump's crypto venture, that they are dealing directly with the people responsible for making U.S. policy in the Middle East. It's just stunning. Literally, the sons of the president and the sons of the Middle East envoy running a crypto venture and then going directly into the Middle East in order to find their first investment. And guess what? Miracle, they found it. MGX, an investment firm backed by the Emirati government at this conference, announced that they had looked at all the crypto companies in the world that they could partner with to invest $2 billion in the crypto exchange Binance, and they selected, wait for it, drum roll, the company run by the sons of the President of the United States and the U.S. Middle East envoy. $2 billion. Now, World Liberty's role in this transaction is not that complicated. It's kind of similar to a bank. MGX, this Emirati firm, deposits $2 billion with the firm and in return receives the stablecoin to be used on these crypto exchanges. The firm holds on to these dollars, invests them, and keeps the profits for themselves. So the Trump-Witkoff company just gets basically a gift of capital. And if they just use that $2 billion to invest in treasury bonds, it would profit around $85 million a year from these investments alone. And the money goes directly to Trump, just directly to Trump. It's literally not complicated. Emiratis, World Liberty Financial, Donald Trump. This isn't 1990s Louisiana. Nobody's hiding it. On World Liberty's website, they say an entity affiliated with Donald J. Trump owns 60% of the equity in the company. And because of this deal, Trump and Witkoff can further capitalize because Trump's stablecoin just became the fifth most valuable stablecoin in the world because of the Emirati investment. And if the plane and the real estate deals and the private equity fund investment and the stablecoin weren't enough for you, Trump has found one last way for Gulf money to flow seamlessly into his pocket. It's called the Trump meme coin. What's the business model here? Trump gets a huge payment whenever he releases a batch of these meme coins, which, by the way, have no underlying value other than just the demand that people have for Trump's coin. And then each time a Trump coin is bought or sold, a small fee is routed directly to the company owned by Trump. According to one analysis, nearly $325 million in fees have been accrued since the coin was launched in January. Just 3 months, 4 months, 4.5 months, $325 million worth of fees. Trump hides the buyers of the coin. In this way, the meme coin is kind of a little bit like Louisiana corruption. But we know that the majority of the buyers aren't Americans who want to help Trump make this nation great again. The majority of the buyers of Trump coin are super rich foreigners, princes, oligarchs, authoritarians, who are buying the coin in order to get in good with Trump or to get something in exchange. Now, one great thing about buying the coin is that you get access to Trump and the White House. And again, they're not hiding this. 2 weeks ago, Trump announced that he would host a private dinner at the White House with seats reserved exclusively for the top 220 Trump coin holders. In 2 days since the announcement, Trump's company made $900,000 in fees because everybody, mostly foreigners, many of them probably in the Gulf, were buying up the coin as quickly as they could in order to get one of these seats. If a mayor of a small town was selling meetings at City Hall for $1,000, he would be run out of town on a rail. But that's exactly what Donald Trump is doing in the Middle East and all over the world. As foreign buyers line up to buy the meme coin, guaranteed private access to Donald Trump at the White House. You cannot make this up. Now, the obvious question for the average American is, okay, what does this mean for me? Like somebody living in New Britain, Connecticut, might think it's kind of gross that Trump is lining his pockets as president, but they want to know, how does this actually affect me? Well, the most simple way to think about this is that if the guy that you elected to protect us and make our lives better is spending most of his time alternating between playing golf and cutting deals for himself, he's not protecting you. He's not spending any time trying to lower costs or defeat our enemies. Corruption, it can be a full-time job for Donald Trump. And that's a pretty lousy deal for the American people. But more importantly, when our foreign policy is for sale, we are less safe. Let me give you an example relative to the trip that Donald Trump is on right now. These countries aren't padding Donald Trump's pockets because they like him. They are paying him in order to get things from the federal government, from the U.S. government, without having to make any actual policy concessions that would benefit the U.S. people. Before anybody could begin to process the brazen corruption of the UAE Trump-Witkoff crypto deal, reports very quickly emerged that the Trump administration was considering changing regulations to make it easier for the country of UAE to purchase highly advanced semiconductors from U.S. manufacturers. This was a huge priority of the Emiratis, but the restrictions are on the UAE for a reason. The UAE has a very troubling and very close security relationship with China. And so the reason why we didn't allow U.S. companies to sell semiconductors directly to the UAE is because we believe that it would very easily become a conduit to China getting their hand on these advanced semiconductors and being able to leapfrog the United States in the business of advanced AI. But all of a sudden, once the cash payment to Trump through the crypto venture was announced, Trump signaled that he was willing to throw our security concerns out the window and transfer this sensitive technology to the UAE, even though it's likely that China will get their hands on this technology, allowing China to put themselves in a position to leapfrog us in the race for advanced AI. That would be a disaster for the American people, but that's what's happening. We might hand AI leadership to China because that's the price of Trump getting paid. And as long as he gets paid, he doesn't seem to care about the impact on regular Americans. The White House is open for business, and the Trump family is proudly advertising to the world where to send the check. They aren't trying to hide it. A $400 million luxury plane gifted to the President of the United States right as he is going over to negotiate potentially sensitive security arrangements with the Gulf countries. Every American, every Republican, every supposed national security advocate in the Senate should be outraged by this. We could look the other way, or we could join together, Republicans and Democrats, to stand up for this country and do something about it. I've joined with Senators Schatz and Coons and Booker to introduce a resolution condemning the acceptance of the plane. It's a blatant violation of the Emoluments Clause. We could stand together as a Senate to vote for that resolution. I've introduced legislation to make it illegal for presidents or members of Congress and their family members to profit off of crypto coins while they hold federal office. We could join together in that effort. I will personally seek to block any arms sale that is announced as part of this trip with a country that is personally investing in Donald Trump and his family. I will force a full Senate debate and a vote on these sales. Foreign leaders need to know that there will be a price for participating in the corruption of the American presidency. This level of corruption is so gross that even Trump's most hardened MAGA sycophants are turning against him. I didn't think I'd see the day, but people like Ben Shapiro and Laura Loomer, who fawn over Trump, can't believe he is so crass as to think that it's okay to accept planes as a gift in exchange for U.S. national security concessions. This isn't America first. This is not what he promised the American people. This is Trump first. He is willing to put our nation's security at risk, take unconstitutional bribes, just so he can fly himself and his Mar-a-Lago golf buddies around the world in gold-plated luxury planes gifted to him by foreign governments. all while at the same time he tells Americans that they should be okay buying fewer school supplies for their kids or fewer birthday presents for their grandchildren because he's driving prices up for non-billionaires in this country. All while at the same time, he's kicking 13 million people off of their health care. Trump lines his pockets. He corrupts our foreign policy to enrich himself while driving up prices and stealing health care from average Americans. It's a national security disaster, and it's a moral abomination. I yield the floor.
Mr. President,
Senator from Oklahoma.
I'd like to ask unanimous consent that the scheduled roll call vote begin now.
Without objection. The question occurs on the Rubenstein nomination. Is there a sufficient second? There appears to be. Clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Also Brooks, Ms. Baldwin, Mr. Banks, Mr. Barrasso, Mr. Bennett, Mrs. Blackburn, Mr. Blumenthal, Ms. Blunt Rochester, Mr. Booker, Mr. Bozeman, Mrs. Britt, Mr. Budd, Ms. Cantwell, Mrs. Capito, Mr. Cassidy, Ms. Collins, Mr. Coons, Mr. Cornyn, Mrs. Capito, Mr. Cassidy, Ms. Collins, Mr. Coons, Mr. Cornyn. How did you learn this? Ms. Cortez Masto. Okay. Mr. Cotton.
Marble has. Yes.
Marble is an irradiating material. Mr. Kramer. Mr. Crapo. Mr. Cruz.
Because we've had some people who have had cancer.
Mr. Curtis.
Like you couldn't build a building today and have it pass, but it's all grandfathered in.
Mr. Daines. Ms. Duckworth, Mr. Durbin, Ms. Ernst.
I mean, yeah, it's an old building, right? So.
Mr. Betterman, Mrs. Fisher. Mr. Gallego. Mrs. Gillibrand. Mr. Graham. Mr. Grassley. Mr. Haggerty. Ms. Hassan. Mr. Hawley. Mr. Heinrich. Mr. Hickenlooper. Ms. Hirono. Mr. Hoven. Mr. Husted. Mrs. Hyde-Smith. Mr. Johnson. Mr. Justice. Mr. Kane. Mr. Kelly. Mr. Kennedy. Mr. Kim. Mr. King. Ms. Klobuchar. Mr. Langford, Mr. Lee, Mr. Lujan, Ms. Lummis, Mr. Markey, Mr. Marshall, Mr. McConnell, Mr. McCormick, Mr. Merkley, Mrs. Moody, Mr. Moran, Mr. Moreno, Mr. Mullen, Ms. Murkowski, Mr. Murphy, Mrs. Murray, Mr. Ossoff, Mr. Padilla, Mr. Paul, Mr. Peters, Mr. Reed, Mr. Ricketts, Mr. Risch, Ms. Rosen, Mr. Rounds, Mr. Sanders, Mr. Schatz, Mr. Schiff, Mr. Schmidt, Mr. Schumer, Mr. Scott of Florida, Mr. Scott of South Carolina, Mrs. Shaheen, Mr. Sheehy, Ms. Slotkin, Mrs. Smith, Mr. Sullivan, Mr. Thune, Mr. Tillis, Mr. Tuberville, Mr. Van Hollen, Mr. Warner, Mr. Warnock, Ms. Warren, Mr. Welch, Mr. Whitehouse, Mr. Wicker, Mr. Wyden, Mr. Young, I know, I was like, wow. Senators voting in the affirmative: Banks, Barrasso, Britt, Cornyn, Crapo, Curtis, Lankford, Marshall, Schmidt, Scott of South Carolina, Sheehy, Young. Senators voting in the negative: Blunt, Rochester, Hickenlooper, Lujan, Ossoff, Rosen, Van Hollen, Warner, Warnock, Welch. Ms. Cortez Masto, Ms. Cortez Masto, no. Ms. Warren, no. Ms. Hassan, no. Mr. Wicker, aye. Ms. Slotkin, no. Mr. King, no. Mr. McCormick, aye. Mr. Sullivan, aye. Mr. Schiff, no. Mr. Schumer, no. Mr. Mullen, aye. Mr. Kim, no. Mr. Budd, aye. Mr. Tuberville, aye. Mr. Rounds, aye. Mr. Reed, no. Mr. Whitehouse, no. Miss Ernst, aye. Mr. Bennett, no. Ms. Collins, aye. Mr. Justice, aye. Ms. Smith, no. Mr. Lee, aye. Mr. McConnell, aye. Mr. Moreno, aye. Mrs. Blackburn, aye. Mrs. Hyde Smith, aye. Mr. Thune, aye. Mr. Kelly, no. Mr. Heinrich, no. Mr. Wyden, no. Mr. Fetterman, no. Mr. Cassidy, aye. Mr. Murphy, no. Mr. Kennedy, aye. Mr. Scott of Florida, aye. Mr. Coons, no. Mr. Cotton, aye. Mr. Haggerty, aye. Mr. Ricketts, aye. Mrs. Murray, no. Mr. Tillis, aye. Mr. Blumenthal, no. Mr. Grassley, aye. Ms. Cantwell, no. Ms. Also Brooks, no. Mr. Durbin, no. Mr. Moran, aye. Mr. Merkley, no. Mr. Cruz, aye. Mr. Risch, aye. Ms. Lummis, aye. Mr. Peters, no. Mr. Bozeman, aye.
Thank you.
Mr. Johnson, aye. Mr. Kane, no. Mrs. Shaheen, no. Mr. Husted, aye. Ms. Duckworth, no. Mr. Schatz, no. Mr. Padilla, no. Mr. Hoven, aye. Mrs. Moody, aye.
Good for the green.
Mrs. Capito, aye. Ms. Klobuchar, no. Today. Mr. Rono, no. Mr. Kramer, aye. Ms. Baldwin, no. Mr. Paul, aye. Mrs. Fisher, aye. Mr. Markey, no. Mr. Daines, aye. Mr. Sanders, no. Ms. Murkowski, aye. Mrs. Gillibrand, no. Mr. Hawley, aye. Mr. Gallego, no. No.
The yeas are 52, the nays are 46. The nomination is confirmed. Under the previous order, the motion to reconsider is considered made and laid upon the table, and the President will be immediately notified of the Senate's action.
Mr. President.
The Republican Whip.
Madam President, I ask unanimous consent that the mandatory quorum call with respect to the Meink nomination be waived.
Without objection. The clerk will report the motion to invoke cloture.
Cloture motion. We, the undersigned senators, in accordance with the provisions of Rule 22 of the Standing Rules of the Senate, do hereby move to bring to a close debate on the nomination of Troy Meink of Virginia to be Secretary of the Air Force, signed by 17 senators.
By unanimous consent, the mandatory quorum call has been waived. The question is it the sense of the Senate that debate on the nomination of Troy Meink of Virginia to the Secretary of Air Force shall be brought to a close? The yeas and nays are mandatory under the rule. The clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Alsobrooks. Ms. Baldwin. Capito. Thank you. Duckworth. Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Banks. Mr. Barrasso, Mr. Bennett. Mrs. Blackburn. Mr. Blumenthal. Ms. Blunt-Rochester. Mr. Booker. Mr. Bozeman. Mrs. Britt. Mr. Budd. Ms. Cantwell. Mrs. Capito. Mr. Cassidy. Ms. Collins. Mr. Coons. Mr. Cornyn. Ms. Cortez Masto. Mr. Cotton. I did, thank you. Mr. Cotton, Mr. Kramer, Mr. Crapo, Mr. Cruz, Mr. Curtis, Mr. Daines, Ms. Duckworth, Mr. Durbin, Ms. Ernst, Mr. Fetterman, Mrs. Fisher, Mr. Gallego, Mrs. Gillibrand, Mr. Graham, Mr. Grassley, Mr. Haggerty, Ms. Hassan, Mr. Hawley, Mr. Heinrich, Mr. Hickenlooper, Ms. Hirono, Mr. Hoven, Mr. Husted, Mrs. Hyde-Smith, Mr. Johnson, Mr. Justice, Mr. Kane, Mr. Kelly, Mr. Kennedy, Mr. Kim, Mr. King, Ms. Klobuchar, Mr. Langford, Mr. Lee, Mr. Lujan, Ms. Lummis, Mr. Markey, Mr. Marshall, Mr. McConnell, Mr. McCormick, Mr. Merkley, Mrs. Moody, Mr. Moran, Mr. Marino, Mr. Mullen, Ms. Murkowski, Mr. Murphy, Mrs. Murray, Mr. Ossoff, Mr. Padilla, Mr. Paul, Mr. Peters, Mr. Reed, Mr. Ricketts, thank you, Mr. Risch, Ms. Rosen, Mr. Rounds, Mr. Sanders, Mr. Schatz, Mr. Schiff, Mr. Schmidt, Mr. Schumer, Mr. Scott of Florida, Mr. Scott of South Carolina, Mrs. Shaheen, Mr. Sheehy, Ms. Slotkin, Ms. Smith, Mr. Sullivan, Mr. Thune. Thank you. Mr. Tillis, Mr. Tuberville, Mr. Van Hollen, Mr. Warner, Mr. Warnock, Ms. Warren, Mr. Welch, Mr. Whitehouse, Mr. Wicker, Mr. Wyden, Mr. Young. Senators voting in the affirmative: Baldwin, Barrasso, Budd, Capito, Kramer, Crapo, Cruz, Curtis, Ernst, Fisher, Gallego, Gillibrand, Haggerty, Hassan, Hawley, Heinrich, Johnson, Justice, Kennedy, Lee, McCormick, Moody, Moran, Peters, Reed, Scott of South Carolina, Shaheen, Sheehy, Slotkin, and Warnock. Senators voting in the negative: Booker, Coons, Duckworth, Durbin, Hickenlooper, Hirono, Murphy, Murray, Sanders, and Schatz. Ms. Klobuchar? No. Mr. Schmidt, aye. Oh, boy. Okay. Mr. Kim? Aye. Mr. Welch, aye. Mr. Schumer? No. Mr. Padilla? No. Mr. Van Hollen? No. Mr. Kane? Aye. Mr. Thune, aye. Mrs. Hyde-Smith, aye. Mr. Husted, aye. Mr. Lujan, aye. Ms. Rosen, aye. Mr. Tuberville, aye. Ms. Cortez Masto, no. Mr. Daines, aye. Ms. Cantwell, no. Mr. Blumenthal, no. Mr. Cassidy. Mr. Cassidy, aye. Ms. Collins, aye. Mrs. Britt, aye. Mr. Wicker, aye. Mr. Wyden, no. Mr. Marino, aye. Mr. Banks, aye. Mr. Fetterman, aye. Mr. Markey, no. Mr. Scott of Florida, aye. Mr. Marshall, aye. Mr. Ricketts, aye. Mr. Sullivan, aye. Mr. Rounds, aye. Ms. Warren, no. Mr. Kelly, aye. Ms. Murkowski, aye. Mr. Young, aye. Mr. Bozeman, aye. Ms. Smith, no. Mr. McConnell, aye. Mr. Risch, aye. Mr. Merkley, no. Ms. Blunt Rochester, no. Mr. Bennett, no. Mr. Mullen, aye. Mrs. Blackburn, aye. Mr. Warner, aye. Mr. Grassley, aye. Ms. Lummis, aye. Mr. Schiff, aye. Mr. Hoven, aye. Mr. King, aye. Mr. Cotton, aye. Mr. Langford, aye. Mr. Ossoff, aye. Ms. Alsobrooks, no. Mr. Cornyn, aye. Mr. Whitehouse, no. Mr. Paul, aye.
On this vote, the yeas are 72, the nays are 26, and the motion is agreed to. The clerk will report the nomination.
Department of Defense, Troy Meink of Virginia to be Secretary of the Air Force.
Under the previous order, the Senate stands in recess until 2:15 p.m.